What is going on, guys? The Inside the Boot podcast, and today we have a Giants post-game video. We have not been making preview videos for I think three weeks straight, so I apologize for that. Been focusing on other stuff, trying to think of new video ideas besides previews. And honestly, the Giants are just not fun to talk about on a preview episode, but we're going to get back to it. Don't worry. Against the Commanders, we'll definitely talk about that preview video. And also, I have a question for the NFL. Why are you putting us on primetime? Why are the Giants getting primetime games still? We could flex it. We could make you a 4:25 game or a 1 o'clock game. We could do that instead and put a more deserving game on Monday Night Football. You know, I know it's a Monday Night Football game, so I mean, you can't really flex that. But, just put us on Sunday, dude. Don't put us on Monday Night Football. I'm tired of seeing Daniel Jones not only play the quarterback position, because that's a mess, averaging 6.9 yards a throw. It's terrible. He blows. And we'll get into Brian Dable and everything in a moment. But just for me, from an NFL standpoint and from a fan standpoint, nobody wants to see us on primetime. Nobody wants to see us on Monday night. Nobody wants to see us on Thanksgiving. Nobody wants to see us on Sunday Night Football. They don't want to watch the Giants. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it of putting us on primetime. We don't deserve it. We don't deserve it. I understand New York, big market, and all that. The Giants have not been good in many years. We've looked at their start of the first 8 games. It's 2-6 or 1-7 every year, besides 2022 when he started 6-2, and that was somehow with Daniel Jones. I don't know how Daniel Jones found a way to win 6 games of 8 and beat Lamar Jackson. That's still crazy to me that Lamar Jackson has only lost once to the NFC, and that was to Daniel Jones. It wasn't to Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, Jalen Hurts, or Brock Purdy, or any good QB, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford. No. Daniel Jones beat Lamar Jackson. And they play this year. But my goodness, do I not want to even invest in that game. I mean, looking at some of these stats, they look cool. Darius Slayton, 108 yards. That's cool. Could be a trade candidate. I think if he plays well, his value could maybe turn into a 4th-round pick. Something like that, maybe. Malik Neighbors had an alright game, but Malik Neighbors and these drops, man. Some of these drops were bad. Looking back at it, looking back at the tape, looking back at the videos. Right in the chest, dropped. Off the hands, all that. And I know people are probably going to ask, Vin, are we on the verge of firing Joe Shane and Brian Dable? I'm going to say this, and I think if people have watched my episodes and watched my videos, you could probably make a good case that I like Brian Dable as coach. And I am a believer, to an extent, that this team deserves to let Brian Dable and Joe Shane invest in a new QB and see what they got. I think that I'm still open to that, of letting Brian Dable get a new QB and stinking up this year. But I think just some of these play calls, you shouldn't be 2-6. I think a lot of these losses come down to last-minute mistakes or just beating ourselves up. I mean, Dexter Lawrence said it too, that some of these losses, we just beat ourselves up. And, I mean, you lose by 8 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's not bad for a team that's 6-2. The 2-point conversion was questionable. I mean, there was no execution. I saw what Brian Dable was trying to do, get the ball to Malik Neighbors and just have all of his offensive line block. None of them blocked. They just stared there like this. Duh. I'm not going to block. Fuck that. No. Just a disgrace. Just a complete disgrace there. Tyron Tracy's fun, man. Tyron Tracy is fun to watch. I mean, that guy was awesome. Looking at his line, I mean, 7.3 yards a carry, a touchdown, 45-yard long rushing, 20 carries, 145 yards. I mean, like, that's your future RB. That guy can play. And that guy, I could see, has a future on this team. Because what it comes down to with this team, and going forward the next 10 weeks, or next 8 weeks, whatever it is, 9 weeks, 17 games, whatever. It's who is going to be on this team going forward, and who is going to be on the trade block and traded at the trade deadline. This year is now just about evaluating and moving on from players and seeing who fits this team and who actually wants to be here. And if there's a guy that does not want to be here, that's Deonte Banks. That guy does not want to be here. He does not want to play, and he plays half-ass. Sometimes he's jogging. Once in a while, he'll make a nice pass deflection or a nice play. The guy's jogging. I mean, I'm thankful that Dexter Lawrence and Brian Dable gave him crap for it. We don't want that. If you don't want to be here, we'll trade your ass. We'll release you. And I think that's a real case for Deonte Banks. Like the game against, Seattle? That he was good in? After that, I haven't liked his play at all. Yeah, I mean, also the Daniel Jones fumble. Drew Phillips got cooked on one play, but like he's a guy like that has been so good for us that I'm not worried with him. He got cooked for a very long touchdown. I mean, like, it's just unacceptable. If there's something that I'm proud of, it's that this team can get to the quarterback this year. Pass rush has been good. Dexter Lawrence picks up sacks. Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence did not have a sack. I don't believe. No, he did not have a sack. But Brian Burns got a sack. Azeez had 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Like a really good game from Azeez Ojulari. And he's a guy that, I mean, when healthy, he could get to the quarterback. And now, probably everyone's like, what do we do with Kayvon Thibodeau when he comes back? I mean, I don't know. But it's good to see that the Giants have guys that can get to the quarterback and get to them consistently. Now, of course, Kayvon needs to work on that, needs to work on pass win rate. But I think we got to get back into Dable and Joe Shane. I think that needs to be a topic that we just talk about for a few minutes. And I know I kind of briefly said it that I am a believer in Brian Dable, but there are some flaws. There's a flaw with any coach, but for me right now, it's so hard to evaluate Brian Dable right now because of the fact that he's in a rough situation, right? With Daniel Jones as your QB, you have to build around him, and you have to build a game plan around him. So I would like to see him get a quarterback. I mean, they did pay him the $40 million a year. So, I mean, there is that. They could have just moved on from him. Thanks for making the playoffs and all that. But, like, that's kind of an unfair business decision, in my opinion. Obviously, we wouldn't have liked to see $40 million. We would have liked to see, like, the $32.5, $33 million for Daniel Jones. Like kind of what Baker got, I think. But that's for me. Like, it's hard to evaluate Brian Dable right now to an extent. Like, the guy definitely deserves criticism, and I'm a guy that doesn't like to give him criticism all the time, but there are times that he definitely deserves criticism. I mean, the 2-point conversion, what are we doing? There's so many other ways you could get Malik the ball. But, yeah, I mean, their frustrations all around. To me, they're 2-6, but, like, a few of those losses are just off the QB play and just overall. I do think if they get a QB like a Cam Ward, I think this team could definitely head in the right direction, and I think we'll see more, like, big-time Malik Neighbors games. I mean, he had 71 yards and 7 receptions. probably he could have had like 10 receptions if he was able to catch the ball in some cases. But man, it's frustrating to one play on primetime, and it's also just frustrating to watch this team. I mean, Brian Burns said it best. They got to grow up. They have to grow up, and for us as fans, obviously playoffs are out the window already. You got to find ways to make games competitive, and I know losing by 8 points is making it a competitive game, but I do like to see this team win. And the other thing, too, about Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, right? This team has gotten gotten GMs, coaches, gone after 2 years. Got, Ben McAdoo, gone after 2 years. Got Joe Judge, done after 2 years. So, my question to Giants fans is, if you move on from Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, I know Mara already said that they're going to keep him. They're going to try to, do this process type thing and see how things go. If he's done at year 3, if they're done at year 3, like they get the QB, they get Cam Ward or whoever they get, Shadur Sanders, whatever they get, and they have like a 4-13 type season, do we fire Brian Daboll then after letting him get a QB? Or do we allow him to be the head coach for the next 3 to 4 years? And if it doesn't work, we look back at those 3 to 4 years and say, hey, maybe we should have, let him go. So that's my question to Giants fans. It's a question to myself because it's kind of a tough answer. Because, I know, I'm not trying to compare other teams, but, you see the Lions and they're able to keep a head coach after good drafting and getting a QB that they like. You see Matt LaFleur get Jordan Love and they have a young team and they look good. I think Brian Daboll is a great offensive mind. Do I think he's a great head coach? I mean, to me, it's to be determined. Because I don't think any coach could honestly succeed with Daniel Jones under center and at QB. Now, Joe Schoen has definitely improved the offensive line. No Andrew Thomas doesn't help anything. Luminor is good. I mean, he allowed a sack to TJ Watt, but that's TJ Watt. So, I mean, that is what that is. It seems like they had a good draft class, with Tyron Tracy, Andrew Phillips. Theo Johnson's good in the blocking game. Had a few receptions for, 35 yards, something like that. So he's been fun. Malik Neighbors, of course, is a stud pick. But, yeah, it's a real question. It's a real question of what I think, of what I feel about the Brian Daboll situation. And, hey, I mean, the guy could be off after this 1 year. After Mara saying that we're going to keep him another year, and then he's gone after that next year. So, but anyways, guys, that's going to do it. Giants lose another game on primetime, and an unfortunate game. Giants fall, and we head to next week against the Washington Commanders at home at MetLife. We'll see if we could squeak a dub, or Jaden Daniels is going to be 2-0 against his buddy Malik, and 2-0 against the New York Giants, and sweeping the season series. But anyways, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and leave a comment below of what your thoughts are on Brian Daboll and the overall New York Giants. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.